What'd your teacher do?
She just didn't talk to me anymore. All she did was walk away. And I was like, what is this about? What?
It's okay though. For being so young, you're very, very smart. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So keep up the good work, man, and stay flat, okay?
Okay, I'm a flat earther. She couldn't do it. I'm a flat earther. I'm a flat earther. I'm a flat earther. I'm a flat earther.
What'd your teacher do?
She just didn't talk to me anymore. All she did was walk away. And I was like, what is this about? What?
That's okay though. For being so young, you're very, very smart. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So keep up the good work, man, and stay flat, okay?
Okay, I'm a flat earther.
Okay, hello everyone. This is Flat Revival Radio. Welcome to this rather impromptu hangout. We're here to celebrate the official release of Flat Revival Magazine #1. It is now available through the Create Space e-store. I think a link has been posted. Let me go grab that again. Actually, it's right below the video. There's a link there. So yeah, it's a big day. It's been quite a journey getting here. Wouldn't you say, Louis?
Nearly killed you.
Yeah, it's I mean,
physically and mentally.
yeah, no joke. It was intense. I mean, I knew it would be from the outset. I mean, I jumped into this thing, just kind of closed my eyes and took the leap, and you know, I kind of just ignored all those things I knew would be coming along during this process and trying to get this thing completed and ready. You just kind of ignore, like, if you think about that mountain you're going to have to climb at the outset, you know, you probably wouldn't do it to begin with. So
Well, the sheer amount of work, not to mention the ridicule that any artist gets by releasing their shit.
Yeah, I mean that's always. I couldn't believe my nerves, like as it got closer and closer, and I was actually submitting print files to CreateSpace. I had these bundle of nerves I just couldn't believe. It had been a long time since I'd really put anything out there. Back in the day, I was really into comic books. I tried to break into that scene. I put out a book called The Runes of Ragnan. It was a Viking mythology comic book. You know, I was young. I was in my 20s, and man, that process just it was brutal, but it was really fun. You know, it got picked up by Image Comics. We put out 4 issues and then a graphic novel collection, and that I don't think I've felt those kind of nerves since working on that project.
Well, if it's any consolation, I've slept like a baby the last few days.
Thanks for that, man.
Hey, somebody has a question, and I had the same question I kept forgetting to ask. Do you know if there's volume discounts and what the breaks are?
I don't. You know, I haven't been able. This is really my first go on CreateSpace, and I haven't. You know, I've been so focused on getting this thing approved.
Where's Paulie?
Yeah, if Paulie's in here, I'm sure he'll know. 17 Project. He's like the resident CreateSpace expert. He'll have answers. But yeah, I'm not sure. I'll have to look into that. You know.
Yeah, we all want answers. That's for sure.
It would be really cool if there were some kind of bulk discount. You know, I know I want to be able to put this thing out in public, you know, just drop it on cafe tables or put it in a waiting room.
Right.
And I will be able to order, I think as the producer of the project, I think I can order copies at a discount. You know, and that'll allow me to ship things out directly. Anyone who's contributed the $25 or more on the GoFundMe first, huge thank you. I literally, on my budget, there's no way I could have jumped into this and done all the things that you need to do to put something like this out there. So that's a huge help, and I'm going to be ordering a fat stack and getting those shipped out as soon as possible to everyone. That's just, you know, it's just one of those things when strangers step up to the plate and support something you're doing, it's really quite something, and that's the nature of Flat Earth. You see this kind of support and encouragement almost across the board.
Yeah, it's a little odd for me to witness.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in art and creative circles more or less my whole adult life, and I can say with full confidence I've never experienced this kind of encouragement and support for something. Yeah, it's been incredible.
I mean, none of these people know you. They don't know me. You know, it's pretty remarkable if you kind of really think about it.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and for them to have it's that leap of faith, you know. We took it when we said, yeah, let's do this thing. And then they took it by contributing and throwing money at this thing before it was even real, you know. And that's, you know, you just have to step back and go, wow, thank you for that.
Yeah, it really is impressive. They're not going to be disappointed. It looks good.
Yeah, hold on, everybody. I'm gonna try and get Crow in here through Skype. I need to get my Skype up and running. Hold on 1 second. I've never actually tried to use Skype while Hangouts is running, so we'll see what happens. If everything goes dark, it's either the September 23rd end of the world, or my computer said no.
And I don't see a difference.
Okay, let's see. Now, is there like a weird echo or something happening, or are we good? I think it's good. I'm gonna get Crow this number here. If I can, yeah, I remember it. Oh, 9. There we go, Crow. I just posted the Skype number in the chat for you if you don't already have it, and we'll see how this works. So yeah, this has been, it's a good day. I kind of want to talk a little bit about this process of working with CreateSpace. I've got an image on the screen there that kind of, to me, sums up what it felt like the past, I don't know, about week and a half. Now,
CreateSpace. I mean, it's Apollo Creed, right?
Yeah, creates. I'm going to call this one a draw. It went the full 12 rounds. Anyone who hasn't used CreateSpace and been through that approval process, when you submit your files, there's a 24-hour, wait before they come back and tell you you've utterly failed. And so every morning I'd wake up and I would look for that email. It would be there, and it would say, "No, sorry, there's this, and this," and I'd have to go in, make tweaks, move things around, and it's a complex design. It's probably a kind of design that CreateSpace doesn't necessarily get that often, because I created it as a magazine. I designed it with that mindset, and there's a lot of full bleed components and things that aren't meant to be full bleed, and CreateSpace was like confused by all of it. But I finally was able to get it there, and I think it was Friday morning. I woke up at like 6 in the morning, and the first thing I saw was congratulations. And that was, what a sigh of relief, and we did catch a couple visual problems that we had to go fix, which is why it took an extra day. But here we are. It's available. So yeah.
Yeah, the whole process, having like you calling me to bitch and everything. It was like it's a marriage with CreateSpace. One day you want to murder the thing, and the next day you're all happy.
Exactly. Hello, Crow. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm on Skype. I'm trying to make this work the other way, though.
Yeah, we're trying. We just started using Hangouts, I think, on the
yeah, can you hear me on Skype?
I can hear you on Skype fine. Can everybody hear Crow?
I'm actually got a browser over here where I'm in Hangouts. I just can't get it to link.
Yeah, there's some people. Are you on?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Are you on an Apple?
Me?
I'm talking to Crow. Sorry. Crow, are you on an Apple? Or a PC?
No, I'm on PC, but there's a huge lag this way.
Okay. Yeah, it should. I mean, most people on PC don't have much problem with it, but the Apple can be a little trickier. Yeah, you should just be able to click the link and drop in. So the way that this is working, Louie can't hear. Louie,
I think I'm here,
there
guys.
We go. Crow just dropped into the Hangouts. Nice.
Hey.
Geez, that was a little bit like pulling some teeth.
Yeah, it's insane how many things I have open right now. My computer's just like, what are you doing to me? I hate you. But yeah, it looks like it's working good. Your icon's popping up. So how you doing, man?
Hey, I'm good. We had a good show last week. I'm excited to see that the publication is out. I posted links on my website and my YouTube channel, and I mentioned you in the intro to the last show as well.
You did, and I got to tell you, there was a huge spike in traffic to the website. I really appreciate you've been nothing but professional and supportive through this whole thing, and I mean, it's just been huge. And you know, it's just one of those things. I've followed you. I might have even hit on your channel, you know, back when you were still filming the moon and the sun and chemtrails. It might have even been before I really decided, yeah, the Earth is probably flat. So I've been following you for a long time, and to have you step up and say, yeah, I'll be a part of that, and to be able to give you a platform in print that's not going to censor you and not going to try and tell you what you can and can't talk about, you know, it's a good thing.
It's kind of why this is such a big deal. Well, one of the reasons this is such a big deal for me is getting a magazine out there in print. First of all, as so many people are aware, I mean, what do we have left? People Magazine and National Geographic. One is nonsense and the other is bullshit. So, I mean, that's kind of what you're up against. But if you can get it out there, there's no oversight in, you know, what we're about to face down on the internet is going to be oversight at a level that's really unstoppable. We're forced to use the tools of the giants. So this is a critical thing in my book, and I really hope that you find success.
Yeah, I mean, time will tell. This is the first step. Thank you, Gus, for subscribing. Appreciate that. You know, thank you, Truth Faction. We'll see how it goes. You know, I think this is just the first issue, and we got an incredible contributor list. And thank you, Tori. And I think as we grow and get this thing out there, and especially when people are able to actually hold it in their hands and see that it's real, you know, I'm really hoping that the desire to contribute and for people to kind of creatively, you know, there's really no limitation. In the previous live stream, I was like, you know, take out an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and that's your canvas. It can be art, it can be words, it can be a combination. But express yourself. You know, what's going on in the world today, the level of deception is kind of off the charts. And this magazine really wants to delve into those topics, not just flat Earth, but all those things that pertain to our reality and what it means to be here.
Well, the movement as a whole has had quite a groundswell. I mean, it's popping up everywhere now. I was a bit surprised to see that more people that don't consider themselves actual flat Earth community members that are not here supporting this. And it's a weird thing. There's a lot of, I don't know, backbiting and mistrust. This is one of the reasons I don't really participate in groups that much. But I did, you know, I know people that are big time flat Earth. They buy billboards, and I've tried to push them over to this. They've even offered to help. I don't know whatever came of that. But hopefully we'll see a groundswell here as this gets going.
Yeah, I do think that we will, just because, again, I can understand people being a little head shy. You know, it's an ambitious thing to say. We're gonna put something in print, and we're gonna do it regularly. You know, yeah, we might not be able to pull off monthly right at the start, right at the get-go. That was probably a bit too ambitious for me to say that we could do that right out of the gate. But I think sometime early next year, I think we're going to be able to really start doing that. And I think as that happens, as the magazine starts building issues, we get to issue number 2 and number 3, and they're like, this is not going away. This is for real. I think people are going to have the confidence to jump in and give their support.
It's going to be interesting for me to see, you know, a lot of people who are younger than I am don't really remember print publications or books that much anymore. So it'll be interesting to see, you know, if the tangible object in your hand has any effect on people. I'm hoping that it does. You know, I've said for a long time, when we see the last library close its doors and give way to the online onslaught, it's going to be a sad day, because it will be at that point that information will be changeable, worldwide with a keystroke. And as long as we have print publications, that's not really the case. So I think it's so critical to try to support things like libraries and print publications. I think these are key things to really hold on to. I'm sure they're going to see their day when the internet just kind of replaces it all. But on that day, there are entities in this world that are going to gain a hell of a lot of power by being able to change the meaning of content with a keystroke.
Yeah, I mean, you make a really good point. You know, it's that ability to just instantly change an entire narrative because all of the data is online and under the control of, let's face it, a handful of organizations. That's dangerous. And
Well, if you consider it, it's actually, you know, I have a degree in internet technology, one of the first ones that was available in the country. You could easily implement, well, you see what Google does now. It's so far beyond that. I mean, Google could easily replace the word murderer with man with a keystroke.
yeah,
Almost everywhere. And so you see what could happen. And, you know, instead of me typing in the little box there, I'll be clear with everyone. The world is misdescribed and space are misdescribed in my view, and I don't join groups, so I hope that kind of answers. I see a lot of things rolling by in the comments there. Sorry, Ty.
No, it's no problem. I mean, I've got to get better about engaging the chat. It's difficult for me to multitask. I'm trying to get better at it, but there's, you know, when you're trying to run one of these things, there's 3-4 things you have to keep your eye on. But engaging the chat is something we should do more of. That's why we're here, is to engage the people that are supporting this, that are interested in it, and everyone has ideas to contribute. You know, that's the thing. So, you know, yeah, let's hear from everyone and let's get everyone involved in this project. You know, back to the you know, the value of a print publication. I honestly would really like to purchase a printing press. I mean, it seems kind of crazy, but down the road, you know, the printing presses all across the world right now are sitting unused in warehouses.
That's a good point. Yeah, it's a good point.
It's like they've got to be cheap right now, and you know, there could come a time when the internet is either so controlled, or they just pull the rug out from under us completely. You know, and if we have a printing press, you know, we can still get things out there.
We're going to go through that day that's the opposite. What was the guy's name who invented the printing press, supposedly? God, I can't think of it at the moment. That's pretty bad. But we're going to come to the opposite day when the last printing press, you know, basically gets covered with spider webs. That's a lot of work to think about printing your own stuff, but it's a hell of an idea. And I can't express enough the value in having a tangible printed thing. That's not editable. Once you've put that out, it is what it is, you know, and websites are not the same. Social media is not the same.
Exactly. I mean, I'm probably even guilty. You know, I'll make a post on YouTube and realize I said something I didn't mean to say, and I'll go and edit it, and it's like, you know, that's relatively innocent, but you can see how that could be completely misused.
Hey, I'm gonna jump in real quick, Ty. Let everybody know, and it goes back to what Crow is just saying about even flat earthers. Jeff Kramer, he's an unearther who wrote a really fun sci-fi story for this issue. He's going to be joining us in about 10 minutes, so that'll be cool to be able to talk to him. And
I'd love to talk to him because, you know, again, I think this flat earth topic is so interesting. It's so fascinating to people who have any kind of, you know, who are just into philosophy or questioning the nature of our reality, that someone who's not a flat earther could step up and contribute something viable to this magazine. I think that's incredible.
Yeah, you know, one of the biggest reasons I've kind of kept independent is way back when I was on the scope all the time, when I have more time to just burn all night filming through a telescope than I do now. I kept noticing things that wouldn't wash, and this went all the way back to the 80s. I just didn't think of it in the same way in the 80s. But I suspect that when we start, hopefully, get to a point where we're getting a truer description of this world, I suspect the truth is going to be so shocking as to completely shift the whole paradigm of what it means to live here. Even if you just take the basic ideas of flat Earth, and if we were just going to run with those and say those are the basic tenets that we're going to accept right now, what you're actually saying is that there is no natural explanation for this place that would exist with these ideas. And if you begin to work that out further and further, basically everything you've been told falls apart. And I think a lot of people begin to realize that the world is misdescribed, but they don't really go too much beyond that, because that becomes such an overwhelming thing where you're all, holy crap, man, I can see too far. Holy crap, you know, you start going down all these avenues that are confirming what you're beginning to realize. But that's one of the main reasons that I've kept independent. I have a feeling that the truth about where we are and how we got here will be so paradigm shifting, so basically shocking as to change it all.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you're taking the right approach, and I think more and more within the flat Earth community, you're seeing people who are saying, I know that what we've been presented with the heliocentric model, with the outer space and all of that, they know that there's something wrong with that's not reality, but to do a 180 and completely lock into to say one model or one map or one view of what this thing is, I think a lot of us are saying, no, we shouldn't do that. That's might as well be the same thing. You're locking into a dogma or a way of thinking that doesn't leave you open for other ideas. I mean, the big reveal here could be much bigger than the Earth being flat. Ultimately.
Well, in some ways, I think you ever notice how so many of the things that are kind of hidden from the average human being are pre-echoed all over the place or encoded all over the place. And then there's this whole idea of the people who actually do have a closer view of what's accurate are required on some level to tip their hand for whatever reason, karma. There's a lot of theories on why it's done, like the whole 9/11 thing. Why did the Simpsons pre-echo it? Why, this is the idea. But the point I would make here is it almost seems like they're queuing up, that they knew this group was coming along. You can even go back to movies like Citizen Kane. Citizen Kane is regularly voted like the best movie ever, or it's certainly at the top of that list. And if you ever pay attention to the very end of that movie, where he's saying Rosebud and he dies, a snow globe rolls out of his hand. But what very few people recognize about that scene is the snow is covering the whole frame. They act like it's like the snow globe that he's just tipped out of his hand, but actually the whole frame is now being hit with snow. And of course, the idea of Rosebud being the sled, it's almost like hints and pre-echoes of what's to come have been put out there. So it will be interesting to see where this goes, but I would not be surprised to understand that there's been preparation for the group that's taken the stage now.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It's been quite it's funny how, flat Earth time, it does seem to compress. It's almost like the reverse of dog years or something, but a month in flat Earth seems like a year. So much the speed at which things are happening. When I look back a year ago where things were, and then now, it's almost unrecognizable. And I mean, it's a good thing. It's just, if you're in it, you get kind of used to the speed at which things are moving. But you step back and realize, wow, this must seem really crazy to people looking in from the outside, just as a curiosity.
Well, I mean, even think about the mindset of it all. So if you go back, to the 80s, where the majority of people are pretty sure they're on a globe spinning faster than a speeding bullet, around all these other things that are spinning. The difference there is even though everyone's living in fantasy, is they have an idea of where they think they're at. When you come to the flat Earth community, A lot of people are understanding what we've been told isn't correct. The spinning model doesn't work. There's all these things we can verify, but think about the overarching idea of the average person stuck in this situation. They have no overarching map. They have no center of where am I? They have disconnected. It's almost like being in the ocean with thousands of people and everyone's got a life preserver, and you let go of yours because you realize you can swim, you don't need it. But the difference there is you have no mental concept of where it is you actually exist. And for me, that is the biggest part of the shift, is coming to the realization that you don't know where you're at. You have no idea of where you are in the scope of things. And what that means by extension is you have no idea where you can go from here. For me, that is the biggest part of what's just occurred.
I would even add to that, you know, you don't know where you are, so you don't know where you're going, you know, all of a sudden. But I don't know, you also lose your identity as well. So you have to start all over, because if your identity has been built upon nothing but deception, then who are you really? So, I mean, I think the flat earth issue hits on so many philosophical levels. It's mind-boggling.
Well, I think that's a good point. You know, it's been said before that we're all three people. We're who others think we are, we're who we think we are, and then we're who we truly are. And when you get to this place where you realize you don't know where you're at, you don't know where you can go, all of a sudden you become a little more self-reliant. All of a sudden you realize, I have to do the work here. I can't just pick up some book or talk to a dude in a white lab coat or go back to high school or none of this nonsense anymore. It's me. Now it's me. And that's a big deal, because at that point, people start to really realize that we have all this ability that we've been just surrendering because some stupid ass book told us something, or some class we took, or, you know, some dumbass TV show showed us a picture that wasn't true. So I think that's a critical part of it too.
Yeah, that's, you know, it's so interesting, because the longer you're in this, it really is, you become hyper aware of how reliant you have been on all of these outside external sources for everything, and we still are. The difference is that you begin to say, well, how can I start to wean off of this a little? How can I start creating a situation where I'm more self-reliant, where I'm standing on my own 2 feet? I don't want to accept that everything in my life, from electricity to my internet to my food to my everything that we rely on for survival, is at somebody else, under someone else's control. And you know.
Yeah, I think you're making a hell of a point. You know, Jason and I are going to cover a little bit of time. I inserted it into what we're going to cover in this next episode. So I'll do a little precursor here to demonstrate kind of what you're saying. Right now, we all exist in a time that's artificial. And to illustrate that, originally the time zones apparently in this country were put in place because all the railroad barons couldn't get their schedule straight. So they hired a dude to put time zones in. But consider this. So if you're at the east side of a time zone and you're at the west side of a time zone, and I'll break this down by distances later, you're not experiencing the same time. And yet if you look at your wristwatch, you are. To take this further, I've been saying for years now that they're not telling you the truth about when an equinox is. And then about a month ago, it dawned on me what the truth of that is. Like right now, I think they're saying the 21st or the 22nd is the equinox. Well, that's nonsense for most people. And the reason it's nonsense is because it's dependent on your location when you're going to experience equal night and equal day. For me, it'll be the 24th. So you see this artificial construct that's even your time. Then when you blow it out more, you understand that time is being created by a cesium clock at the Naval Observatory in Washington frickin' DC. Nobody's looking at the sun, which is what a year is based on. No one's looking at the moon, which is what a month or a month is based on. They got a damn cesium clock. So it's really a completely artificial construct when it comes down to it. And I think it plays right back into what you were saying about the food and everything else. We've come to a point where, I mean, we're at the cliff's edge. We either got to fly right and start doing better, or we're going to become the freaking unhealthy, stupid monkeys we were meant to be, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not ashamed or embarrassed to say that, I am that to a certain extent. I mean, my skill set is tied up in computers and things that they're not tangible things. I can't go outside and build a house. I'm not
Right.
exactly sure how to, I've tried to grow food and I've done a little bit of that, but by no means am I capable of growing my food or building things or taking care of these kind of fundamentals of being here. And that seems very intentional. They've created whole generations of people that have no skill set when it comes to just basic survival.
Yeah, it's de-evolution. It's intentional de-evolution. We did a funny thing the other day, where we were gonna, I've been talking about de-evolution, how we've been kind of been pushed down to an infantile mind as each year passes. We went back and looked at Hawaii 5-0 of all things because they were running it on TV. So we recorded one of them just to get a sense of what the main character was about back in the Hawaii 5-0 days. And we were stunned, man. McGarrett, the chief of police in the old Hawaii 5-0, he seems like an adult. He acts like an adult. Right. And then when you compare it to what we're watching now, you got drunks, idiots, slobs, Simpsons, all these kind of poor examples of human beings are pretty much what's filling the airwaves. And you can really see the kind of intentional de-evolution that feeds into exactly what you're saying. At some point, having a group of adults all wearing diapers, none of which can create their own food. No one can make their own house. All these things that we've kind of forgotten how to do. But, all is not lost. These are not things that we can't pick up again. And I think that's the main thing here. I may not know how to grow a cucumber today, but I sure as hell could know tomorrow if I wanted to.
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, it starts with the motivation, the desire to do so. And I think that's a big part, this process of whether you're coming to flat earth and embracing that fully, or you're just in that state of mind where you're questioning everything that's being presented to you. I think it begins that desire to become more competent, more capable. It starts to grow, and pretty soon you're not happy with yourself if you're not trying to at least learn some basics.
Yeah, these are critical things, and particularly the food thing that is going to be so key for so many people. I'm really of a mind that certain groups of people have been targeted with the food, what's been put into food, your water, the fluoride, what the dentist does to you these days, putting mercury in human beings, these kinds of things. People need to wake up to this. We're not there anymore. It's time to move beyond that. It's time to start giving a damn about what goes into your body, because that is certainly a key portion of the de-evolution that we've just experienced. And, Hawaii 5-0 was not that long ago. Even, we went and looked at a stupid match game from the 70s. I think it was 74, and they wouldn't say the word toilet. I mean, look at what we do now. There is no word. Look, there is no word. They get defecation in almost every episode of everything. It's this lowering of the human mind. It's this de-evolution. And what we put in our bodies plays into this in a way that I can't overstate how critical it is for people to start being concerned with what's allowed to pass your lips,
Yeah. And it's really unfortunate because, they've really made it quite expensive for most people. If you're trying to get food that where it comes from, or it's not gone through the normal channels, the mass agriculture processing channels, it can be quite expensive to do that. I'm fortunate enough to live in an area that has a all year round farmers market every Saturday morning. They don't have everything all the time because that's a natural limitation of the earth. There's things that grow at certain times of year, but there's always enough food to eat if you're just willing to say, I don't need to have something available to me all year long. You know?
Well, that's a critical point, Ty. I would mention when I was in San Diego, some of the more ethnic, poorer communities were all starting to get farmers markets. They even had farms where people in these communities would go get a row and they could grow in their own little plot and then come make some money at the market. But the main point here is exactly what you're stating. This food was available. This has really been one of the key parts of the de-evolution, I think. I can remember as a child, we didn't drink soda. I'm over 50 years old now, and soda was not consumed by people in the way it is now. As an example, back then, if you went camping or something, you might get a soda as a special thing. And then as the marketing and the corporatization of everything kicked in and the whole world began to shift, you can see TV pushing from where the Bradys are cooking dinner at home to the Big Bang Theory, where you go out for dinner every night and you bring home a soda with that dinner. So you can see the way that it's been pushed. But the truth is we all have the ability to push back now. We just have to recognize what's happened. I think that's the key.
Yeah, definitely agreed 100. It's incredible how this idea that something like soda has become a beverage that you just drink when you're thirsty, which is absolute nonsense. It's at best it should be a rare treat that you give yourself, and the way it's just become you can have one of these with every meal. And you can obviously see, the repercussions of that. Anytime I go out into the world, when I have to hit those larger stores for whatever reason, and you see the percentage of people that are just
obese. Yeah,
they are, and it's not. I'm not insulting a group of people there. We are under attack. This is a war.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, Ty. You got to call a spade a spade. There's a lot of fat people out there, and that's not intended to be a jibe, as you're pointing out. But to any person with eyes, go back and look at movies from the 70s. That was a short while ago in the scope of human existence. Look at the shots of something like the movie The French Connection, when they're doing shots around New York City where it's clearly not extras. Even when I mentioned we were watching we had recorded the Match Game to compare and contrast the amount of hair, the thickness of hair, all of it. Just go back and look and see where, within my lifetime, back in the 70s, back in the 60s, what people looked like and the shape of people back then and where we've come now. I think you just have to call a spade, where a lot of us are fat, a lot of us are unhealthy, and unfortunately a lot of us have chemicals and mercury and all kinds of crap in us that we really shouldn't have in us.
Agreed. And I go ahead, Louis. Sorry.
Oh, no, I was just saying, it's a problem when they're changing vehicles. Like the cup holders in vehicles, they're getting bigger and bigger. I mean,
right. Yeah, right. They have to accommodate the 64 ounce, which is now the medium size is what you couldn't even get a size that big 10 years ago. Nobody
knows what a small is. You ask for a small and they look at you like you just, I don't know, spat all over the place.
Even when you get a small, it's the equivalent of a large from the 70s.
Well, even from my childhood, I'm quite a bit younger than you are. I mean, I have the same memories that you were just explaining.
That's just part of the key here. A lot of people woke up whatever day they woke up and they said, hey, wait a minute, man, the earth is misdescribed. A lot of people are waking up and saying, hey, wait a minute, man, society is not right. The food supply is not right. Why in the F is this man in the white lab coat putting mercury in my mouth? A lot of people are waking up to this. I think we're going to see a shift, but at the same time, it sure feels like we're going to get a hard push for total control quick, maybe quicker than planned. I think these hurricanes are a good example of that. I've never seen so much nonsensical nonsense around supposed natural events in my life. I wanted to cover them more than I did on my show, but my God, man, we can see the push for apparently the people who want to own the whole enchilada. But at the same time, we see a lot of people out there who are just not so sleepy anymore. So, we live in interesting times. Who's going to be first? Are the sleepy people going to get out of bed, or are the greedy people going to steal the whole enchilada? I don't know which way this is going to come out.
Yeah.
Hey, Ty, do you want to? Jeff is in here now. Do you want to introduce him?
Yeah, certainly. Jeff Kramer, welcome to the show. He contributed a really slick sci-fi story to Flat Revival Magazine #1, and as Louis mentioned, he's not a flat earther, quote unquote, but the idea of it, the philosophy of it, I think really, like we said, appeals to people, and it gets the creative juices flowing. So welcome to the show, Jeff. How you doing?
Hey everybody, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Yeah,
Howdy.
I'm doing well. Thanks for the introduction and the opportunity to write that story. I feel like it turned out pretty good. It should be a nice addition to the issue. I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on it and really seeing all the contents that are in there. I've been bugging Louis about it since he told me about it. Like, what are the other stories? What's the content like? And so I'm really looking forward to it.
Now, what's cool about this story, and some of you may have heard it, but when we first came up with the idea of this magazine, I approached Jeff and just said, hey, do you want to write something for this Flat Earth magazine I'm now editing? And it wasn't even like, wait, what? He was like, oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, and I'd like to ask Jeff, what was your thought process on that? I mean, why, as someone who hasn't necessarily, and I don't know where you're at in terms of research or looking into this for yourself, but what caused you to just kind of instantly go, yeah, this is something I want to jump into. I want to inject something into this narrative.
Yeah, I think predominantly my influence and my jump to go right in and start writing about something like this was, I'm not exactly 100% on anything. I'm pretty much open to everything until proven otherwise. And so I think there's some really interesting, compelling evidence out there. And me and Louis have gone back and forth on a lot of discussion about it. And I think the whole concept of some of the more believed ideas around the flat earth inspired me to write the story the way I have. I won't go into anything about it or spoil it because it has a particularly nice twist, I think, on it. But I felt like it was just a really good vehicle to kind of just get this interesting story out. And it ended up being a little bit different than I wanted, but I tried to keep it as true to a lot of the flat earth beliefs as possible and kind of put it in a realistic narrative. And it just instantly hit me with a lot of just creative vibes of what I could do for it. And I still think, based on a lot of the evidence that currently exists to support the flat earth theory, there's, an endless amount of creativity and narrative and interesting things that you can combine with the ideologies inherent in the theory. And just to expose that to more people is kind of a curious, open and easy way to branch out into these concepts. I feel like, having a good sci-fi narrative or, even like an absurdist fiction, as it kind of dabbles with, is a good vehicle for people to kind of hop on and open their mind up a little bit more in a bashful sense.
Well, yeah. I think on a more simple level, because, I'm not a flat earther per se either. And Jeff and I spend large amounts of time talking about flat earth. And I think for people like us, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, but I think it really comes down to the importance of looking at somebody and say, for once, just question everything. Just for once, be open-minded. Like, really think about who you are and where you come from.
Absolutely. And it goes back to a lot of the immediate dismissal that people have. Oftentimes, I've mentioned it in passing to other people. Hey, I wrote this story for a Flat Earth magazine, and I have to be like, whoa, wait a minute. And it's just at a point now where the fundamental underlying philosophy of question everything is the really fun part about it. And to have an audience that may or may not be either way, I don't think is the objective. the objective might not be persuasion, but just to be talking about it and having the idea open with everything, everything from flat earth to organic foods to the whole bunch of it. So the immediate dismissal that the common person will have if you use the term flat earth is always insulting to any philosophy, any open idea of something that could inherently be different in society. And I think that, in a simple term, like Louis put it, is the fun part about it. To have such a crazy concept out there and really dive into what it is to believe something that 99% of society doesn't believe and still feel not completely subjectively discredited, but to kind of just open the idea that, maybe everything we were taught was a lie, or something that's just an interesting branch of philosophy that really hasn't been discovered in terms of the way people think and the way sociology is.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's anything that is going to cause an individual to stop and question whatever it may be, whatever thing they hit on that makes them go, whoa, I've never actually even asked that simple question. So much of this stuff is taught to us at such an early age and continuously presented to us over the course of our lives that, for most of us, asking that simple question, is Earth actually a sphere? That never even occurred to me to ask a question like that until someone else asked it for me, until I hit on something and someone else was asking the question. I think one of the earliest things I came in contact with was Math Powerland's comedy show. And whatever he's up to now, I don't necessarily watch much of his stuff now, and it doesn't matter. The thing is that he made me ask that fundamental question: is it a ball? Is it spherical? Photo or painting? And I think anything we can do that makes someone stop and question these things that are supposedly already settled, there's value in that.
Yeah, it's interesting because you can tell somebody, hey, do you remember the blue marble, the first photo of the Earth? Well, that's been openly proven to be a painting, and nobody would question that. And you have people that live their whole life in a specific theology, and they start enabling themselves to have an empowerment of doubt and questioning their own beliefs, but will continually always buy into every other belief. So I think at its core, at least asking the questions and diving into flat earth is an important self-discovery and empowerment process as well.
Absolutely.
Well, doesn't the blue marble kind of demonstrate where we find ourselves in a way? Because if you consider that it's been demonstrated that there is no image of anything from space. So anyone who ever went to school and saw the blue marble image in their textbook, or, lived their life and at one point said, hey man, that's a picture of Earth from space. The day that you know that is no longer true, that should do a heck of a lot more than make you just say, well, someone lied about this picture. And that's really what we're facing here. At that point, you should be saying, wait a minute, this was in every freaking textbook. We had NASA telling us or implying that we were looking at a picture of our world from space. All not true. And so for me, that's kind of really where we are now. How can it be that so many of us come to know these things and we're still not ready to be individuals, to be human beings, to take it to the next level and say, well, wait a minute, if they lied about this, that's a pretty intentional thing. I got to start questioning everything. But, it's an interesting thing that you bring up with the blue marble image. And for the life of me, I will never understand why a heck of a lot more people aren't really just kind of questioning it all.
I think a lot of it has to come down with a lot of exiled feelings from people. It's the same, I'm from Salt Lake City, Utah, and here if you're in the LDS religion and you start questioning your faith, it's a complete exilement of your family, your friends. And so I think on an intellectual level, people are also very highly indoctrinated to carry a specific ego and a facade around. And that is in danger when you start questioning things that everybody else has been led to believe.
Good point. But again, being willing to face that kind of thing, while it may not be for everyone, That's kind of what it means to be an adult in a way, is when you recognize that you're looking down a tunnel and you're the only one that sees the light. Hey, man, you got to make a choice. Are you going to stand there in the dark or you're going to head for the light? But it is a good point you make, because in a lot of situations, it's not easy to single yourself out in that way.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a certain level of maturity and diligence that needs to go into it. Absolutely. But anyway, so I unfortunately have to work today, but I just wanted to pop in here really quick. I got a message from Louis saying you guys were going to do this, so I wanted to give another congratulations to Ty in the magazine and all the great work Louis done, and Crow. I haven't talked to you before, but Louis given me your YouTube channel, and I look forward to hopping on there and checking out some of your content.
Cool. Get my email from him if you like. Since we're writing for the same place, we should probably talk. Anyhow, it was good to meet you.
Yeah, good to meet you guys, and you have a good day.
Yeah, thanks for being here, Jeff. Appreciate it, and thanks for contributing to the magazine.
No problem. Look forward to checking it out. See you guys later.
All right.
Well, hey, I hate to follow suit here, guys, but there's a big shindig in the local area for a land management area that saved a bunch of forests from condos, so I'm going to head over there. But thanks for having me on again, man.
Thank you for being here. You've been incredible through this whole process, and I really look forward to reading your future articles.
Well, the next one we're going to do the whole alchemical thing and talk about, our separation from nature and what I believe the old ways were. But I look forward to doing it. Just give me an email when you know when it's going to be due for the next edition, and I'll get on it.
Will do, man. Thank you.
All right. Cheers, guys.
All right. That was fun. It was really great to actually talk to Jeff and get his perspective on this thing. Obviously, and this is kind of a universal thing that I think we discover about flat earthers or people who are questioning the official narrative on things like cosmology. They're just intelligent, well-spoken people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Crow, he was spot on when he was talking about his almost horror when something can come out and it's proved that whatever was a lie, and it's provable, but people then won't open their minds to, okay, if they lied about this, what else have they lied about?
Right. And you would think there'd be this very natural, quick kind of domino effect, this progression of, well, man, like you said, if this has been proven, I mean, it's just absolutely proven that this was a fabrication, this was a deception, then you just think that those dominoes would start falling. And but again, we kind of understand that for a lot of people, they've been given this like prepackaged, here are all the answers about all the big questions. It's in a nice tidy little box with a bow on top, and you get to take that and think that you have all these answers and you have a deep understanding of the universe and your place in it, and you put it on the shelf, and then you don't have to think about it. You get
Right.
You can go out, do the things you need to do daily and want to do, and it's like all that stuff is taken care of for you. And I think it's difficult for people when they realize, wait, that would mean I have to open that box and throw away all these answers that were given to me, and I'm going to have to start asking them myself. I think maybe I'll just leave that box alone.
Right. So essentially human beings are kind of have been trained to be emotional hoarders, huh? Like just they just keep packing their attic with all the crap and they refuse to clean it out.
Right. It's an interesting thing, and I think that plays a part in it, at least, that it's just easier to keep that box on the shelf and not have to deal with it, so you can go about your day. And we see it all the time. When you watch a documentary like Finding the Curve, Enar Kusk, or people who go out into the streets and engage people about this topic, one of the things that almost inevitably comes up is, well, it doesn't really matter to me. What's the difference?
Right.
And I don't think they actually, I'm not I'm not buying that they actually think that way or believe that it doesn't make any difference. They just prefer that it didn't.
Right. That well said.
You know what I mean? And I can accept that. I understand that. I've kind of come to this conclusion, when it comes to flat Earth and introducing it to people. I kind of think just plant the seed, just plant that seed briefly. Get someone to just ask that question or put it in front of someone. Now, if they're the type of person who will, the moment they come in contact with that fundamental question, is the ball even a sphere? Is that accurate? You're either the type of person who is going to instantly, that splinter in your mind is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're going to start asking your own questions, and you're going to seek out more information. Or you're the kind of person who just wants nothing to do with it. And you could debate them and talk to them and throw information at them all day long. It's not going to make a difference. So in my mind, it's like, plant the seed, and that person is either going to start this kind of process where they're going to seek it out, or they're going to dismiss it outright and want nothing to do with you or it. And that's fine. You've already done your part. You planted the seed. You put that splinter there, and it's up to them to do the rest, really.
Right. Yeah, and it never does any good. And I'm a firm believer in this, and I know other people aren't, but I'm a firm believer that, people are gonna push as hard as you're pushing them. They're gonna push right back. It's the whole, like, I don't know, guerrilla style spread of information, I think, really weakens the point.
Right. That's a really good point you make, that the equal and opposite reaction. The harder you push, the harder you hit, they're going to feel compelled. It's almost a defense, knee-jerk reaction. They're going to push back just as hard, just because people don't tend to like being put on the spot, especially about something such a vast topic.
Yeah, and they're pushing back without even really hearing what you're trying to say. So yeah, to pull back and plant the seed instead of throwing a bag of seeds at the person. I feel it's a much better tactic.
Yeah, exactly. That's just I'm not saying, I fully think I am impressed and admire the people who are going out there and hitting the streets and doing it, and they get better and better at doing it. And there's value in that. And there's YouTube channels that have spinning ball believers, and they go into these big passionate debates and the back and forth thing. I'm not saying there isn't value in that. Don't get me wrong. I think that needs to be there. But I just, on a personal level, from my experience, being in this for years now, it's really the best thing to do is just plant that seed in a casual way. And if that person is the type of person who is ready, who is capable of questioning on that level, they're going to do it. They're going to take that seed and they're going to grow it into something. And if they're not, they're not. They're not ready. You're not going to make them ready by jamming a bunch of information down their throats.
Well, and it's also important to know your abilities to read a person. So, and go forward according to that. It's not hard to read a person. Like, okay, this person is slightly open, but it's going to be slow going. Then you change your tactic. But yeah, you need to know a lot about yourself too.
Right.
You just need to know yourself before you can ask somebody to question themselves.
Well, yeah, absolutely. That's very true. And once again, it seems like there can't be a flat Earth discussion without the Matrix popping in. And know thyself.
Right.
It's just, And it is interesting to me that we've, in recent years, we've experienced so many of these kind of these films and these things coming from the very entities, the very corporations that we're basically going up against and trying to change the narrative that they keep pushing. But again, they put these movies like The Matrix in front of us that basically egg us on to start questioning our reality. And I find that interesting. What is the motivation there? To
Right.
put out this material that inherently makes you start to wonder. And of course, they're filled with propaganda. They're filled with false information. I'm not saying they're letting go of any big secret, but they are the nature of these types of films. They do kind of make you ask some questions.
Well, and I mean, yeah, you would have to be a fool not to think that, there's an agenda behind it. That's an important piece of information. What is the agenda for something like that? What's the end game?
Yeah, exactly. I brought this up, I think, in the previous live stream where, D Marble's spirit level experiment, which is up to almost 1 million views now. It recently had a bunch of articles come out from, online newspaper type entities, and all at the same time. And I think every one of them were highly sarcastic, and but it doesn't matter because the moment they plant that seed, they're still putting it in front of people. It's going to make a certain number of people curious to what is this all about? What, flat Earth? They're going to go watch that video by D Marble, and they're going to see it's going to start making them wonder. So why bother? Why do it? Why even engage it?
Yeah. I mean, I guess the tactic could be, what they're doing is they're striking first. They're going to reinforce just how big of a nut job this guy is, plant that idea. So no matter what this person is showing you, just like we said with the pushing, they're not going to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem that clearly their tactic is pure mockery. It seems to be about all they've got. And they do a bunch of that, but it still just seems to me that their best course of action would be to ignore it completely. They're not doing that, and that's more and more. You're starting to see more and more. You've got people like ODD and Critical Thinking Always and Nathan Oakley. They're starting to appear on some more mainstream outlets talking about this flat Earth. And it just surprises me that they're engaging it at all, even if it's from a standpoint of mockery. I see it as nothing but a good thing.
I mean, yeah, the media coverage of D Marble, sure, is like overly sarcastic and stuff, but like you said, they're almost up to 1 million views, so they're helping out.
Exactly. They're doing nothing but helping the cause. So thank you very much. And also, what the hell are you doing? Why are you doing it? And flat earthers are inherently, we're always kind of like, well, we're gonna assume that you're up to no good, and figure it out later. But our assumption is if it's coming from the establishment, then there's something nefarious going on, and it's up to us to figure out what their angle is.
Right.
Jibby Jedi is going to be joining us here in a few. I think he needed a few minutes, and then he's got about 25 minutes or so. Jibby is very passionate about flat Earth. I caught him on, I think he was speaking to Nathan Oakley recently, and I caught some of that interview, and it really struck me, his passion and the ideas he has about flat Earth and pushing it forward. And I reached out to him right away and invited him to contribute, and he's definitely going to be a part of Flat Revival #2. And really looking for, he has a writing background, he's got years of flat Earth experience. It's going to be a good thing.
Yeah, I'm excited to meet him and read his stuff. Yeah, that'll be fun to talk to him.
Yeah, and welcome to the show, Jibby. Can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Who are you guys talking about?
We were talking about you, man.
Oh.
Indeed. I was just saying, I caught you on, I just kind of given a rundown of how I got in contact with you. I saw you speaking with Nathan Oakley and was really taken with your passion and your ideas for pushing this thing forward. So I dropped you an email right away, and you got back to me, and we're really excited to have you in the next issue.
I'm glad to even have the opportunity, because I need something for that passion or whatever, and I usually dial it down. I really do, because a lot of people can't handle certain amounts of intensity and passion for something, and you have to dial it down, and that it frustrates me.
Yeah, you're never. That's when it comes to Flat Revival magazine. You're never. We don't allow you to do that, let alone make you do it. We want your full passion. We want the most cutting edge thought and ideas possible. We want to put that forward, and I think you have those kinds of ideas.
Right, and we do a lot of kind of going around in circles, and it's good to do that to polish our information. A lot of times we don't dot all I's and cross all T's, and a lot of the trolls help us do that. So, they do have some purpose, at least,
I agree with you. I was talking about this a little earlier, I personally, I think and this is just probably not the best personality trait, but I've lost my patience for the circular debate. And I think part of that is it's just everything being presented by the establishment, by scientism, regarding the heliocentric model is such a cartoon to me. It's so hilariously false, and that it's hard for me to get into a circular debate about it or listen to it for an hour or 2 hours. But I agree, there's inherent value in it, and you can hone your skills. It forces us to build a better narrative, and there's value in that for sure.
Right, and the longer you're in this, the more hokey and silly the cartoon globe model becomes. And then it gets to the point where they're bringing very complex proofs. Like, they're so anti-Occam's razor for their evidence for the curvature and the globe and everything that it's just like, okay. Well, what about the physics of water? You still haven't addressed point one, day one, stuff like that.
Exactly.
Like, they're all like, well, the theodolites here in the space-time continuum. No. Let's go to the simple. Let's deal with simple, not 4 chalkboards of math.
Exactly. Thank you, Steve Hartham, for that donation. Greatly appreciated. Yeah, Jimmy, you're dead on. It's like, it's like they just skip over this obvious body of evidence that they can't possibly answer. They don't have answers for. So then they're like, well, let's just go over here and make the most complex, ridiculous thing we can think of and put that in front of people, and it'll just shut them down mentally.
And it does. It
works. It works.
Yeah,
right.
Unfortunately, it does seem to work with a certain cross section of the population, and that's unfortunate. And it's obviously a tactic they've used from the beginning. Let's make the numbers so big, let's make the math so complicated that nobody's even going to bother. They're just going to say, well, they're the experts, I'm going to go have a latte.
Right, and you can't really learn something to learn it. I don't know about you guys, but when I was in school, I was kind of one of those A-D students, like A's and things. I enjoyed D's and things I just didn't care about, like Louis XIV's knickers and what's going on in Versailles. Like, I don't care about that. Like, it just bounced off me. Right. When you want to learn something, you learn it. And I think in Flat Earth, we have a lot of people who kind of want to learn it, but they kind of want to learn about space. So they don't really want to learn it. And then whoever comes out with the best word soup with magician spell words, that'll win over their opinions, and that's what we have. So they make it 4 chalkboards of math and anti-Occam's razor, and it sounds really intelligent. And I've seen that convert flat earthers back to the globe, just because they were kind of near the fence. But that's it. It's just like
wow, you've actually
it's a verbal magic trick.
You've actually experienced a flat earther going back to the globe? I didn't know that was possible.
Well, it was a I want to say it was a planetary physicist who spoke to them and gave them a very complex word soup, and they not just went back to the ball, but they went hard against flat earthers. Became
That's
a troll.
fascinating. Okay, I'm gonna have to because I've said in the past, and I would have said it today until you just said what you said, that there's never going to be a flat earther who goes back. I just, in my mind, it just seems like an impossible thing to do.
If you've taken the flat earth into your heart and you know it, not believe it, then yes, it is impossible. But if you just believe the earth is flat, you do have a chance to go back, because if you believe it's flat, that means you don't know it's flat. And
right.
You're only in a state of belief. And somebody comes along with a word soup that you like, and that's it. It'll get to you.
Right.
That's really well put.
Yeah.
But then they'll believe in the globe. So they're going belief in flat, belief in globe, but they never end up knowing. Well, it helps to get off your ass and do these experiments yourself, and get out in the field yourself, and talk to people yourself, and engage in a flat earth discussion yourself, face to face or online, and you do these things and you start to see it. You really do. You start to see the control that this cartoon globe has on people's minds. You just see it, and it's wow.
Yeah. It is. It becomes almost a frightening thing. I remember, way back when the whole March for Science thing happened. I can't remember when that was, like April maybe. I can't recall. And just watching footage of these people marching, with all their signs, and they were able to inject everything into it. The climate change, global warming, gender. It was all lumped into this science, because now that there's no gender according to science, it's whatever you want to be. And just watching these people march in support of this science, what they think is science, but is actually scientism, nothing but a faith-based religion. And for the first time, I was kind of like scared. It got me a little bit worried, like, this is what we're up against,
It goes one way and then another way too.
This mindset. It's just, I don't know. Did you feel that way at all?
Yeah, we're up against, we're up against quite a force. The TV alone seems to be their greatest weapon.
Yeah, and that people could.
Without it, could they make this globe exist without that TV?
That's a good question. I do think that it needs constant reinforcement, and obviously there's really no better outlet for that than the television. They're able to inject it into everything. And the truth doesn't need that constant reinforcement. That's our
I would say.
Go ahead.
Yes, they absolutely could, because before TV, they were running the same program, and it was all the pageantry of the big religion.
Right.
The big monotheistic religions have always used. So it's the same thing.
Anyway, Infinite Plane Society has dropped into the hangout. Good to have you here. Thanks for joining us. We're talking with Jibby Jedi, and Louis Lewis is here, the editor of the magazine. Yeah, I mean, yes, they clearly were capable of getting people on board and creating this delusion about the globe. But it certainly doesn't hurt having control over something like a television and being able to pump it into people's minds every day, all day long.
I don't think people fully accepted the globe, though, until television, because, like we all say, our senses do not show us anything of the like at all. So we would just see globes and pictures, basically, and then there's our senses. And, flat Earth was taught in schools until what, the 1920s or 30s. I mean, it was the induction of television that really, I think, converted people solidly over to the globe religion.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't actually spent time looking at that timeline, and as you clearly have, but I wasn't aware that they were still teaching flat Earth as anything other than as a joke or something humorous in schools. What did you
No,
say?
it was kind of the way we do it. It was like we do it now. It was you're presented both models. Like if you go to say a Jesuit Catholic school today, they'll teach you both. They'll teach you the religion, the Bible, and then they'll teach you the Big Bang. So you'll have both. So it was kind of like that.
Right, right. Interesting.
And they just took it out, and it was debated in newspapers, and this was it was going pretty strong in the early 20th century. And then when did television come around? Or the moving pictures, I should say, like that helped too. We started with the moving pictures and theaters, and that's where you got your propaganda news and your fake nukes and all that stuff. And then television. That was it.
Yeah, yeah.
We've been hooked.
And it's fascinating to go back and look at the early stuff like the Sputnik and no, it's really no better now. The cartoons are a little slicker, but they're still clearly cartoons. Even the believers in the spinning ball obviously know when NASA shows them something, it's a cartoon. They know that. It's CGI. They're not, I don't think they're, but they don't, I don't see why, but it doesn't cause them to question it. It's like cartoons apparently are good enough for people. And that doesn't make sense to me. How you can show, here's a cartoon of a satellite, like just recently, CNN had a story where, saying NASA's going to be chasing an asteroid, and it was all cartoon, and, it's going to have this 11-foot arm, and it's going to touch the asteroid. This is all going at however many thousands of miles an hour, and they show this cartoon, and that apparently is enough.
It really is. People are not, they're not demanding the solid information that they should be, that we used to do as critical thinkers as we built this country before taxes. We were very critical thinkers of everything, and now people really don't demand much more than a news headline to just run with something and cement that belief into their psyche. Just a headline. They won't even read the article anymore.
You're right. Yeah, it's incredible. What a tool. What a tool for mental manipulation. I mean, it's really incredible. But we keep pushing forward. We keep doing the legwork. We keep getting this thing out as best we can, and I think we're getting more creative about it. And we're seeing more and more events like we've got the conference coming up. We've got FEMA camp. We've got the Flat Earth meetups happening. This thing is spilling over into the streets and getting.
You have a magazine now.
And a magazine. Hey, let's not forget about that. Issue number 1 is now available, and that's going to be out there. That's going to be floating out in the streets in the real world, and I think there's a lot of value in things like that.
Absolutely.
Have you asked anybody, or have you made any video trailers for the first issue that we can have people mirror?
I did.
Like Mark Sargent would probably plug it.
Yeah, exactly. I did put out a promotional trailer for issue number 1. It was slightly before it was actually available, but it's certainly that still plays. It gives people a good look at what's inside. I'll go and grab that link and post it up in the chat here. But yeah, it definitely, I'd like to produce a new video for sure that I can send to people like Mark Sargent with confidence, and it would be great to get some exposure from the larger players.
Well, it's noteworthy because it's like the first, and so I think we ought to get a lot of people to get this idea of publishing in print form. Channels should be behind it, because part of getting out of the echo chamber is getting off of this reliance on video and moving into print. Print's not dead.
Absolutely not. I think you know, they've been trying to tell us that print is dead, and certainly its community papers and such have taken a hit, but there's no denying that when people hold something printed in their hands, that it still carries the same power as it ever did. I don't think that's ever going to change.
And there are the people that prefer print too.
Most definitely.
That still exists.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have something to read in the bathroom too. I mean, I guess you can bring your technology in there with you, but I mean, and I'm sure people do, but I like having a magazine myself.
Yeah.
Let's see. I think we may have some other people who have joined in into the hangout here. Go find the others. Are you there?
I am here. How's my sound? I'm hardwired and have a studio mic, so it should be good.
You're coming through loud and clear.
Yay.
Yeah, and go find the others, aka Jacob Appleman is hey, IPS, we're getting a lot of noise coming through on your. Thank you. Go find the others is another contributor to Flat Revival #1. He's doing a great thing by sharing his experience as a parent, as someone who is a flat earther and also a parent of several children, and he's going to be sharing his experience with you know, making those decisions as a flat earther, and really looking forward to delving into those topics. I think it's a really important issue.
Yes, because I heard on a live stream the other day, and I listened to so many, I forget where, but they were talking about in 100 years, there's going to be 7 billion different people here. And what are we going to leave behind? And much like, you know, we were talking about just a second ago, that may or may not be here. So, you know, why not have children with knowledge and print forms of the things we all share online? You know, because time moves pretty quick, and you know, we'll need to have a legacy of some kind.
Yeah.
If not in print form, also, you know, a new group of, you know, flatties that haven't spent 40 years being indoctrinated one way, you know, to carry on with not only the message, but, you know, the unanswered questions we've unearthed in the process.
Yes, exactly. I agree. And I think sometimes there's, I think, a tendency that this is all going to happen really fast, that certainly, you know, in our lifetimes, you know, I'm in my 40s, and you know, I think we sometimes think, man, in 5 years, this thing's going to be blown wide open and it's all going to change. But while you know, I hope that can happen, it would be phenomenal if we can break down this current paradigm that quickly. But I think we also should be looking at a long term. You know, we need to have a long-term vision about this and be realistic about what it's going to take to break this thing down. I think a lot can be done quickly, yes, but if we don't have a new generation coming up in it, who's going to pick up that torch and keep running with it, we're dead in the water, you know.
Yep. And like you were also mentioning just a little bit ago, belief versus knowing, you know, and the article I wrote gets into it, but just forcing children to believe the flat earth cosmology is a very dangerous trap as well. You know, knowing both sides of all of the arguments, you know, is just as crucial as seeing the deception, is knowing their model, in air quotes, to see what the reality is versus the indoctrination. And with so many of the next generation of flatties being in a public school setting, they're, the public schools are the first wave of the indoctrination. And man, it's a tough road to go, because we talk about like the trolls in YouTube comment sections giving us a hard time. Imagine being 9 and telling your teacher you don't think the globe's necessary. I mean, the outgrouping and the forced authoritarianism that's in public schools, it's a delicate situation that can't just be rammed down children's throats. And learning how to maneuver within the beast matrix until we cut the razor wire open and bust the fence open.
Yeah.
Got to be handled correctly, or it could meet a disastrous end.
And this is exactly why I'm so happy you stepped up to the plate when we put out a call for Flat Earth parents. This is exactly these are the topics that we need to address, and I think it's so crucial. And that you're someone with real life experience, and you've had to maneuver these things and deal with these issues, and you're able
Correct.
to share that with people. I think having that in the magazine, being able to give other people a little bit of guidance on this is so important, because it's not like they're going to be able to find it anywhere else.
Right. And like IPS has always said, Flat Earth is the table with which all these other puzzle pieces can be assembled. I have uncircumcised boys that play varsity football. I have non-vaccinated children that we have to go. So there's at politely not giving consent, and this is the next step in that. But I homeschooled the high school age children until high school, and we have one younger that didn't do a ton of homeschooling. So I've maneuvered several of these paradigms that we're trying to shatter with children in the beast matrix, let's say. So I was super excited to have a venue to share some of those, because a lot of people are new to the game or don't have children yet and will run into these at some point. And I have been fighting the man since before YouTube existed, so I've got some battle scars, and my feathers are thick and I'm unflappable.
Well, I would even say, like, especially in terms of what you were saying earlier, Ty, what's the long term? We need to make this tenable for future individuals. And with what Flat Revival is all about, not trying to convince, it's this parent article is, I think, has the potential to be one of the most important things that recurs in the issues.
Agreed.
And yeah, and I'm super. Go ahead.
And I'm, Jacob is going to be anchoring this series for sure. But we are hoping that a couple more families or Flat Earth parents will step forward, so we can get some different perspectives on it, and people who are at different stages of this. Clearly Jacob is, like he just said, he's a seasoned veteran. He's got scars, and he's made some of the mistakes and knows how to avoid them. So it's going to be a great ongoing series with a lot of value.
Yeah, and I'm excited to keep contributing. The most difficult part was condensing it, because I've got a lot to say on it, and there's a lot to be said. And I'm also been around long enough to know I don't know it all. So I'm also just as curious to feedback. Being a salty old vet, I have a few ruts I'm stuck in, and if a young whippersnapper is battling this for the first time and is inspired, or had an epiphany of a new way to approach it, I'm all for redesigning my strategy as well. So
nice. It
should be exciting.
And I love that about so much of the Flat Earth community too, is we don't have to say we know everything, and we're willing to say I don't know, and we're willing to say someone else might have a better idea about something. And I think that's led to so much positive forward momentum. It's really good to see.
It's extremely important to keep the door open. We can't close the thing because we are going to get bigger revelations coming, because flat earth was huge, but obviously there's going to be bigger like shockers out there, like who made it, how big is it,
Right. And
what's
maybe
the
something
center, what's at the edge, if there is one.
Yeah, and maybe something we haven't even considered, something that's
The existence of physics that we haven't heard about yet, what these orbs are in the sky, or these circles of light, they exist now. That's a whole new thing that we don't even know exists.
Exactly.
So when we learn about that could change a lot of things too. So always keep the door open.
Yes,
correct.
Point.
I call them windows of opportunity. Make sure you're not slamming them, or you don't have it too far open because you don't want to fall out.
I call it the Donkey Kong methodology, because we find ourselves moving in one direction, then we come across a ladder. We climb that ladder, and then we find ourselves moving in the opposite direction, but we're still moving upward. See what I'm saying?
Nice.
And
yeah.
then,
correct.
Like we were like, yeah, Alex Jones is the truth. Go up, come to this ladder. No, Alex Jones is a shill. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we come across the ladder, we go up, and then we go the opposite direction. So people are like, you guys are now contradicting what you used to say. So it's like Donkey Kong.
Hey, Jibby, that's Bill Hicks. That's not Alex Jones.
Alex Hicks, yes.
Yeah, there you go. And it's, I really like that we're so much of this community is willing to do that, is willing to say, well, new information has come to light, and I've got to let go of this over here, and that's okay. That's going to happen. We can't move if we're going to get locked in to any one thing. Then it's going to assure that we're not going to move forward. And
sure, because just like the macrocosm we're all figuring has been deceived, we're going to find the microcosm with viruses and how diseases are spread may not be the case. I saw now, as far as you're talking about antique propaganda, I saw a new one the other day that I said, of course, once I saw it, but it hadn't occurred to me that all of the Pearl Harbor footage is way iffy if you go back and look at it. And it's,
sure,
we're just going to keep running into these things. Oh, yeah. That's a psyop, bro. And, you got to be ready for the things we hadn't considered, getting caught up in, realm-sided cosmology.
That one really, I remember hitting on that quite some time. I can't remember where I first kind of got cued in that maybe, go look at this Pearl Harbor stuff. And yeah, you look at it and there are these shots where you're like, well, who was shooting that? Who took that shot? It's absurd that someone would have been able to even get that shot. And then so much of it looks so fake, or like models. And
oh yeah, those grocery store horses that a lot of times they're how they just rock back and forth. There's one shot of an airplane that I'm like, who's flying right next to this guy filming it, and why is it rocking like a grocery store horse?
Right. I mean, this is a surprise attack, right? Nobody knows it's coming, but they have filmographers on hand in airplanes that can capture it. Hold on a sec. What's going on? It's the same thing as like who's taking that shot of the satellite as it approaches Jupiter. Did they have one following after it? I mean, what's going on here?
Who filmed the lunar module take back off and head back to Earth?
That was the signal they sent from the Earth, and they timed it out perfectly because they knew from the last mission the delay time of the camera panning, so they planned it all out this time just right.
There you go.
Please.
Yeah, and I think you see this pattern, this reemergent pattern with all of this. Once you become savvy to one thing, where you're like, wait a second, who took that shot, or does that look staged, or are they reusing things? I mean, the Civil War stuff too. I mean, the most famous photographer in the Civil War, you come to find out that he was using, like, he would take a rifle and use it as a prop, or he would move he would move a body or put it in a different position, and it's like, okay, you begin to question all of these things, all of these narratives.
Some of the bodies were just nothing more than like stuffed scarecrows. I mean,
Exactly.
it's crazy.
I love that you, as a flat earther, you could bring up almost any topic, and they're like, yeah, I know about that. I'll give you some more info. You know, I love that.
Well, William Randolph Hearst had said, "You supply the photos, I'll supply the war." And Citizen Kane is based on this guy, where he was a media magnate, huge publishing company. He said, "If you could provide photos, I'll tell the story that there was a war that happened, and people will believe it."
There you go. And it's, you know, some of this stuff I haven't looked into extensively enough, or I'm not going to say anything final on some things. I'm just not, you know, I'm not comfortable with it. But certainly there's more than enough there to question these narratives on so many things, these huge historical events that we're supposed to take as absolute fact. We should be questioning all of it.
And what I think they all also have in common is part of the programming we're all trying to break free from is the answers to everything. Sometimes I don't know is the correct answer, or, you know, we're working on it still, because I don't know exactly how the towers came down and the name of the person who hit the final button. But I can tell you for sure it wasn't, you know, 17 hijackers with box cutters. You know, I don't know where the edges of this realm are, but I can tell you it's not a spinning ball. You know, I don't know who shot JFK, but it most likely wasn't Lee Harvey Oswald. I mean, there's so many of these things. Monty Python and the Holy Grail is a good analogy, because the point isn't finding the Grail. They just want you running around in the field, you know?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of these things, and if anybody ever used to listen to Visigoth, he had a radio show out of Florida. I did a show with him about, I don't think JFK even died, because what the grassy knoll, the school book depository, the limo driver, Jackie with the Derringer under the chin, and the storm drain all have in common is none of them are conclusive.
Right.
Therefore, the answer is something else.
Yeah.
And it may be he's not dead. He didn't die. JFK planned the whole thing. He was one of the most wicked, people in the whole mix. But what exactly went down, we may never know, because that's not answerable.
Right.
You know, the World Trade Centers, how many iterations of, jet fuel to thermate to thermite to controlled demolition to directed energy weapons. Then it turns out that things didn't even have floors. I mean, there's just layer upon layer upon layer.
Yeah.
And it's almost like these things are not solvable by design.
Agreed. It's,
so
they're fine as long as you're traipsing further and further down that rabbit hole, and it's consuming all your time and energy. That you're still engaging on their level. And it's like, at some point, for me, on most topics, I'm like, okay, I've seen enough, I've gotten enough information that I can make a decision in my mind that the official narrative is nonsense. I know that it's not to be trusted, and something else happened here, and I don't need an absolute answer to it. It's enough for me to say the official narrative.
This is
no
a mind
good.
game.
Yeah, and I need to move on now. I have important things to do.
Yeah, because there most likely may not be an answer like in Clue. Professor Colonel Mustard did it in the library with a candlestick. That may not. People want that answer, and they're so uncomfortable with not get one of those.
Hold on.
That they just defer to.
Yes. Sorry, you broke up a little bit there.
Sorry about that. No, but that's why they use shill spotting in conspiracy circles. Is if they can get you to doubt your own intuition, when your intuition leads you to a specific person or idea, and then they can sow doubt, eventually they get you to doubt your own intuition. And I think that's the real point, so that you don't make any choices, which makes you apathetic. And then if you're apathetic, then you ask the expert to tell you which way to go.
Exactly. In 2009, I had a 20-hour phone call with Dr. Judy Wood, and in some of that information I tried to share with the InfoWars crowd that I had been involved with forever, and the massive amount of resistance to even look at it. At that point, because my first website was infowarts.com, like, a venereal disease in your brain from all this deception.
Yeah.
And it was a play on InfoWars and trying to, do what he did, only a little bit funnier. But when I saw his absolute resistance to even address it, I changed my telos then to go find the others, because it's so much of this is designed to get you to spot shills or to argue with people or to pick a team and fight another team. And one of the things I love about the Flat Earth community is our desire to move forward with uncertainty. Community. I haven't said I love you to strangers this much ever and actually mean it. I mean, there are people I'm dying to meet. D Marble, I love that guy. Never met him.
Yeah, no doubt. I think that the love for D Marble is relatively universal. He seems to have that effect in it. But you're right. It's this, and he speaks to exactly what you're talking about in the magazine. I spoke with him about the importance of Flat Earth meetups, and he shared, his experience with that. And it's just this. It breaks down all the barriers. It doesn't matter if it's age or ethnicity or whatever background you're coming from. The flat earth thing tends to just break it all down, and it gives us this platform where we can all just, yeah, I'm a flat earther. Yeah, I'm a flat earther. Well, let's give each other a hug because we're on solid ground here together.
Yes, non-rotating solid ground.
Exactly. It's motionless and stable, and we can get our footing here together, and then let's talk about where we go from here.
Absolutely. When in doubt, zoom out. And I tell people all the time, the only way out of here is to face.
Yeah. There's just so much good stuff. I really need to get some work done today. Unfortunately, my day job is at this really demanding place right now. This has been so much fun. I really appreciate everyone who's dropped into the hangout, everyone who's here listening to the live stream. Flat Revival #1 it's available. It's out there. We've got a great list of contributors, and this is just the start. We're gonna do some really cool stuff. Yeah.
No, I'm super excited. I've got my issue ordered. Another awesome thing about having hard copies is, sharing links is fantastic for the motivated, but if somebody's in a doctor's office or a library or an airplane and they're captive to the hard copy in front of them, flipping through that thing. I mean, even if you're illiterate, just the pictures alone will plant a seed, versus getting a bag of seeds thrown at you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I really appreciate everyone being here, all the support. It's been incredible. We're going to push this thing forward in new ways, and we're all excited to see what we can do with this thing and grow it into. So
yeah, and let's start getting contributions, meaning your artwork, your written pieces. Start submitting, make I busy as hell.
Yeah, please do.
Correct.
I'm really glad you brought that up, Louis. I mean, we need more contributions. Yeah, we got an incredible amount of stuff for the first issue, but we're gonna need a lot more of that. And if you know someone who's a writer, who's an artist, who has any desire whatsoever to express something, not just about flat Earth. It doesn't have to say flat Earth. specifically, if it's exploring these topics that we've hit on today on a deeper level, flat earther it's a state of mind. It's something that we just want to be challenged. We want to be thinking on that higher level and this philosophical level about our world and questioning things. So if you know someone who can create content, let them know about the magazine. Let them know about this opportunity to get in print, to share what they have to say. We want to hear from them.
Absolutely, and having an issue, a physical hard copy to point to, I think is going to be a magnificent tool. For meetups, a lot of this, people get discouraged trying to create a video or make a podcast or line up interviews, but everybody's got 3 pages worth of brilliance in them. And if they see a beautiful hard copy and they know they're one email away from contributing to it, I think, that's definitely going to help, having the first issue there to show people, say, hey,
yeah,
write it down. Let's get it in issue number 2 or 3 or 4.
Exactly. That's the hope, and I think it will, as we get the number 2 and 3 and 4 out there, that's only, it's going to build on itself. And then we can start, the cool thing about this is, now that this first issue is available, there's sites where you can, get your publication listed for writers and artists, it's like directories for people who want to get published or want to make a go of it. Flat Revival can now start entering that mix, and I think it's a great opportunity to get these ideas, this way of thinking out there. And
absolutely, and I get so excited looking forward that, like, issue 33 or issue 420 or issue 666, we're just gonna have a blast with this thing. And
I think so. It's already been so much fun, and this has been by far the best hangout we've had on this channel. I think the excitement's growing. We're all feeling it, and not just for this magazine, for everything that's going on in Flat Earth and this whole community. Amazing things. FEMA camp's coming up. Looking forward to that. Hoping to be there. I'm
more excited about that than any when I was a kid.
Yeah. How cool is that? 2 days and nothing but Flat Earth music and art and higher thinking. I mean, it's just incredible.
Yeah, I'm not kidding. I want there, because I saw a 9/11 documentary a long time ago where maybe David Wolf, somebody like that, was talking about the Schumann cavity resonance before, during, and after 9/11 and the change. I would be interested to see, in a similar way, kind of universally how, or the Schumann cavity resonance, or just shit in general, when you get that many creative people that close to each other, the magnification of all that brilliance may have physical effects that would be measurable.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. And I'm really looking forward to that. And I think you're right. The more people that come together that have this passion and creativity, it's exponential. You get those people in a room and thinking about and think tanking this stuff. Man, the sky's the limit. Who knows?
Whether it's practicing magic or massive creation, or, that's why I'm so excited. Whatever Shill figured out, that, November 4th and 5th is an analog to 9/11. I was like, yes, that's awesome, because that's only going to help us. But, as more of these get together and the more creative people we can get in proximity, things like group meditation, or would you have the most open-minded people focusing their energy and intent as a collective, and proximity not requiring Cat 5 cables, I think the 100th monkey will hear us.
Yes,
to put it mildly.
Yes. All right, well, thank you, Jacob. Thanks, Jibby Jedi. Thanks, IPS. Sorry, didn't have a whole lot of time to engage with you today. We'll get together and chat soon.
Yeah, get a booth at FEMA camp. Get a booth at FEMA camp for sure. We'll expect you there. If you can't make it, your magazine will be represented, and I'll have hard copies there.
You know, my lady in secret had started putting money aside for the FEMA camp trip, so I've already got a head start on that. So I think I will be able to make it. That's my plan, and really looking
I was
forward
gonna
to
say, I'd have
Good, we'll be in
Morgan
touch.
Ellis drive by and snatch you if you didn't.
it. Nice, I appreciate that. Thanks, Jibby Jedi, for being here. Appreciate it. Look forward to your contribution.
Oh yeah. Just give me the details. I'll get working on it as soon as I can. And it's so good to see so many good people getting together and working together and supporting each other. And this is exactly what we need to be doing.
Agreed, exactly. All right, everyone. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Let people know about issue number 1, and we'll talk to you real soon.
Later.